Hello students, welcome back. Today we discuss about the back propagation problem in the neuron. Okay. For the back propagation problem, it is a set of methods and this is the definition. It is one set of method. It can be used to train the artificial neural network using the gradient descent approach. Okay. And these are the features are used in the back propagation algorithm. And now we solve one example. Here this is x1 and x2 is the input layer, okay, and h1 h2 is the hidden layer, and y1 and y2 is the output layer, and b1 and b2 is the bias value, and the weightage can be updated here, and the bias values are given in the question, and the target values t1 t2 are given in the question, and the learning rate also given. Okay, now we solve this problem. Okay, for the first solution, I am just writing the values for input values, initial weights, bias and target value, and eta is represented as a learning rate. Okay, for our comfort zone, so I am just writing this all values in the first page. Okay, for the step 1 is calculate the weights of h1 and h2 by forward bus, because you see the questions are given the values for input values, hidden values and output values only. Okay, not at all they not giving the values for h1 and h2. So I am just writing because the questions are given 0.05 and 0.10. So this is our input values are given, our target values are given, bias values are given, but h1 and h2 values are not given. So the first step, we calculate the value for h1 and h2 for the forward bus. Forward bus is based on here onwards. Okay, now we do this problem. For the step 1 is calculate the weights for h1 and h2 by forward bus. Okay, now I am writing the equation for h1. Okay, see the diagram. h1 is include the line with this x1 with the weight of w1. They are connected to h1, and x2 with the weight of w2. Okay, so I am writing the equation like x1 into w1 plus x2 into w2 plus the bias values for b1 is added to the h1. Okay, so I added the b1 also. For the h2, the x1 with the weight of w3 and the x2 with the weight of w4, and they are connected with the bias value is b1. Okay, now I am expanding this equation, that is h1 is equal to x1 into w1 plus x2 into w2 plus b1. Okay, same format you may write for h2 also. h2 is equal to x1 into w3 plus x2 into w4 plus b1. Okay, now we substitute the value for x1 is 0.05 and w1 value is 0.15 and x2 value, w2 value and b1 value. Now I am substituting this value 0.05 into 0.15 plus 0.10 into 0.20 plus 0.35. So now I am substituting the value. We calculate this value. You may got 0.3775. Okay, so this is the value for h1. Now you may do the value for this value, you apply the activation function. Okay, for the activation function I am using sigmoid activation function. Sigmoid function, what is the value for sigmoid function? Normally for the sigmoid function, if I am using x equal to 1 by 1 plus e power minus x. Okay, this is normal sigmoid function equation. Now I applied this equation for the h1. Okay, so just that is expanding, it is h1 final equal to 1 by 1 plus e power, here x having means minus x. Here h1 is minus h1. Okay, now I am substituting the value for 1 by 1 plus e power minus h1 value is 0.3775. Okay, and the value is I think 0.5932. You may do your own. Okay, so this is the value for H1. You do the same for H2 final. Okay, for the H2, you substitute the value for all here values. You got the answer, that is 0.3925. And for the H2 final, you use the activation function, that is 1 by 1 plus e power minus H2. You substitute this value to here, that is you got the value 1 by 1 plus e power minus 0.3925. Okay, so that is the value is 0.5968 something. Okay, so this is the value for H1 and H2. Now we are calculating the value. Next we calculate the value for Y1 and Y2, because the question is given that a target values only, not at all the exact value. Okay, next step we calculate the value for Y1 and Y2. Okay, so this is step 1, and step 2 is calculate values of Y1 and Y2. For the same procedure what we do for H1 and H2, H1 and H2 final, the same procedure you may follow for the Y1 and Y2. Okay, see the diagram. For the Y1 equation we may frame, for the Y1 are connected with H1 with the weight of W5, H2 with the weight of W6, and with the bias value is B2 with connected with W1. For the W2, H1 with the weight of W7 and H2 with the weight of W8, the bias value is B2. Okay, now we frame the equation. The equation is for the Y1, that is H1 into W5 plus H2 into W6 plus B1. We substitute the value for this, and for the Y2 equation, H1 into W7 plus H2 into W8 plus B2. Okay, we substitute the value for H1. H1 value is the H1 final value. Okay, so substitute the value for H1, the final value, and you got the value, that is 1.059. Okay, you may use your value, that is my value. Next you for the value, that is Y1 final is equal to 1 by 1 plus e power minus Y1. You substitute the value for 1 by 1 plus e power minus 1.059. So, and you got the value, that is 0.7513. And for the Y2, substitute all the value, you got 1.2249. For the Y2 final, you apply the same function to here and substitute the value for Y1. You got the value, that is 0.772928. Okay, so finally we got the value for Y1 final is there and Y2 final is there, 0.77. Okay, for the question is given that target value is 0.01 and T2 value is 0.99. But we got the values totally different. Y1 value is that and Y2 value is that. Okay, now the value is having some errors. For the next step, we calculate the errors. Okay, what are the errors are applied. Okay, for the next video we calculate that. Thank you students. Be on follow. Okay.